I'm like, stop it. You already know the right people because everybody that's not the right people knows somebody that is the right people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Therefore, you already know the right people. You can
Yep.
get there. You already have enough trusted relationships in your world, more than you can build in a lifetime of going to cheesy networking events.
Mm-hmm.
And you can build faster with somebody that was endorsed to you, introduced to you, than you can with somebody that just met you
Yeah. Yeah.
because the trust is already assumed.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Tiffany Alexander, and this is Unveiling Journeys. So happy to have you here. As always, a smidge about me. Oh, my dear, I love the power of networking. I love the power of getting to know people because they're the coolest people that are in the world out there that I keep getting introduced to. And whenever I meet them, I say, hey, you've been wonderful. Who do you know that I need to know? But also, I have some people that I think you need to know. And that opens up a world of opportunities with people. And that's actually how I got a chance to meet one of my mentors, got invited to an event, and that's how I met our guest today. Dan and I, we met at a live event in Tampa. That was so cool. We got to go kayak on the ocean. And in that, just like day and a half we spent together, you get to establish these relationships with people. And then you want to refer people for life, you know? I was just telling him, I have so many cool people I need to introduce you to. So with that, I'm super excited to bring Dan on. Who you are and what you're up to right now.
Daniel Andrews. I'm located in Columbia, South Carolina. Proud of where I grew up. I moved away, moved back. Let's see, who else am I? I'm a child of God, a believer in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Number two, I'm a husband, married a gal, 33 years between our first date and our second date. So it took me a minute to get up the courage, but there's a fun story behind there. But Adina Maynard is my wife, and she's an entrepreneur as well. Has a smartphone app board game out there called Cattywampus. Shameless plug for my wife's business. So download it and sign up for the paid version and, have a lot of fun. Let's see, what else? My understanding of the importance of the fact that people don't need more connections in their life. They need the right connections. They need better connections. And the older I get and the more I see the power of that, the more enthusiastic I get about sharing not just the network, right? It's the old teach a man to fish, right? If people come to me, my network, it's not infinite, but it's fairly limitless. But unless I show people how to build their own network, I'm limiting their future success, meaning I can never retire or die if they're counting on me. But if I can show people how to build a network effectively, turn the network they have into the network they need, and make their network the primary source of consistent business development, not hit or miss, but dependable, reliable, repeatable business development, then I feel like I'm doing the right thing.
I love that. One of my favorite little one-liners that you have, and your business card is the most impressive business card I've ever received in person, was like the Ninja Networker. Is that what it's called?
Well, it doesn't say it on the business card. It says I create meaningful connections, but the name of the course is Ninja Network Building Skills.
I love that. And by the way, his business card is a full metal card. It is heavy. And I thought, I can't carry this thing around. I need to like display it somewhere so I can always remember Daniel everywhere I go. Okay.
I just had a new Saint, conceptually very similar, but I had it simplified even further, and they're doing a new pressing right now. So if anybody's listening and you just want the card, I will invest the money. Make sure I get your mailing address as long as you're in the U.S. or Canada, and I'll mail you one. So
Like, yeah, that's awesome. Cause that's probably like many stamps to send this metal card to people. It's
I
not
think
just
I'll
throwing
probably
regular.
pay more in postage than I did for the card, but the cards themselves aren't cheap.
Oh, that's awesome. At least it'll get you to remember him every time you're like, this is the best card I've ever had. That's like better than an Amex, black card because it's heavier than that. Anyway, I have this. Obviously, we want to unveil your journey. I want to hear about your story from the beginning. I know you said born and raised Columbia, South Carolina. Tell me like what you want to be when you grew up. Like what was that like? And going into what you go to school for?
Yeah, I'll be happy to fill you in on that. And just because Columbia is one of the points of connection that you and I have, because you used to live here for a hot minute, we met for the second time in Tampa.
Yeah.
Somebody had, I think probably Josh Tapp had introduced us probably, and when neither one of us
That's
knew the other was
right.
coming to Tampa, and
That's right.
I'm like, is that Tiffany Alexander? Because she's on the West Coast, and I had no idea if she's going to be in Tampa, Florida. And they're like, yeah, that's Tiffany Alexander. I'm like, oh, hey, Tiff. Because I just didn't expect you to be there. But yeah, because you and I have mutual friends in Christy and Noah. Yeah. Shout out to Christy and Noah. If you're listening, yeah, we'll make sure they listen. But anyway, okay. Well, this is a fun thing to tell because my bio says I've been self-employed officially 37 years, 51 if you start with the lemonade stand in first grade. So now you know how old I am if you can do math. And lemonade stand and then on to a 1099 sales rep position 12 years later. It was literally lemonade stand to greeting cards door to door to programs at University of South Carolina football games to selling M&Ms to my fellow students when I realized that anybody with a checkbook could buy candy at wholesale from Palmetto Wholesale Candy and Cigar. The building is still there, although the business is not, downtown Columbia. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. And then I all through, growing up here in Columbia, South Carolina, went off to college in Atlanta, Georgia, primarily because I was offered a scholarship and it was Atlanta, Georgia. I had 3 scholarship offers in 3 very different towns. And I thought Atlanta, Georgia is a great place to be a college kid. Turns out Atlanta, Georgia is a great place to be a college kid. So I had a good time there and squeaked out with a diploma by the skin of my teeth. I started off, I thought I wanted to be an engineer. Semester number 5, near midterms, near finals, I'm struggling with the optics textbook intro that says light is both a particle and a wave. I'm like, surely this college has more than one major. I need to be poking around and see what my backup option is because I cannot get through light is both a particle and a wave. It was not working in my head. And it was shortly the summer before that bad semester, I had taken a summer job with a company that a lot of people will know and have heard of, and some with mixed feelings, called Cutco Cutlery, which is a direct sales company. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I did that for summer. No, I did it for 15 years. I took a summer job and didn't quit. It worked out really well for me. I struggled at first. I was not very good. Had to figure out, how to evolve my market. But that was my first taste of evolving a market through referral. And I do want to make this small distinction between referral and introduction, which I'll elaborate on. But you go to Mrs. Smith's house. Hey, Miss Smith, appreciate you letting me do a demo. Like I told you on the phone, I get paid just to show it. Who's your best friend? Who's your neighbor? Who babysits the kids, right? Who do you know from church that I could go show the products to? So it was clearly a referral process because with sharp knives, you can't just knock on somebody's door and go, can I come in? You don't know me, but I have sharp knives in my hand. And I thought that's as far as the referral process went, meaning I thought that was the depth of understanding of referrals versus introductions. And it was much later that I evolved that. But anyway, spent 15 years here, moved to St. Louis, uh, launched a business around employee benefits, failed because I did not understand St. Louis and I did not understand referrals nearly as clearly. And had to take a job for the only moment in my adult life. I had a job, like a W-2 job. In my entire life, I've only had a W-2 for less than 60 months, and that counts summers and working for my dad starting at age 13. So very, very little in the way of W-2. And then when they got bought, and of course my position was eliminated, right? Saw that coming when they announced the buyout. I went back to the employee benefit industry and rocked it because I had learned quite a bit about the power of an introduction versus just a referral. A referral is a name on a piece of paper. An introduction is a 3-way thread. Text, got one a few minutes before our video call via WhatsApp, LinkedIn messaging. Shoot, I'll take them on Facebook if that's where the other person is to be found. But email, some thread someone will endorse me. And very quickly built my business to the point where I won't take an appointment with anybody that was not referred to me. Not because I'm like, have your people call my people, I'm too good for you. It's because I don't want the hassle of building trust from zero when I can start with the trust that comes into the door, right?
100%. And aren't we all like not just the power of 7, but like 2 degrees of separation from people at this point anyway in the world? Because we're just so big and small at the same time.
Correct. Yeah. Ever since I ran into my cousin in front of Buckingham Palace, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, there's a funny story there. But there are enough people within 3 degrees of separation to keep everybody on this planet in business. And I can prove it mathematically for anybody that cares. But if I could somehow constrain you from ever going to another networking event ever again, I could still make you successful. I'm not saying people shouldn't go. I'm just saying if I could still make you successful because there are more people that you can get to today. The number of people that you could reach on the phone today is more than enough to keep you in business for the rest of your career. And when people start to do the math, they're like, holy cow, it's pretty
Right.
amazing. We have some fun with
My
that.
dear.
Yeah. So then I moved back. So I'd gone to St. Louis, right, with that business, failed, took a job, got restarted, moved to Houston. My first wife took a job in Houston. There was no point staying in St. Louis. If you're not from St. Louis, it's not an attractive town for a lot of reasons. Nothing against my St. Louis peeps. And then she and I divorced in Houston. Wheels came off the marriage there, had been gradually disintegrating. And I moved home in 2016 with a model about bringing the right people together in the right way, right? A few core individuals, right? No more the large network, the small network, not a lot of time networking, a very little amount of time networking and getting better results. And I've evolved my understanding of that, over the last 9 years and elevated the work that I do and the price I charge for the work that I do over that
Absolutely.
timeline. So, yeah.
Man, that was actually one of my first introductions to the idea of the introduction referral was when a friend did the Cutco thing and they slid like that piece of paper across the table and they
Doing
said,
it right.
yeah, I need 10 names and the phone numbers. This is before Facebook, before the internet was really, I don't think I had a Gmail account at that point, right? I might be dating myself too, right? But in that, I thought that I don't even know anybody. I live in Daytona. I don't know anybody. I'm a college kid too. I know hey, you have to pitch to your friends first and then go bigger, but I don't know anybody there, right? So that always left a major imprint of that moment in time of like, wow, this is cool. This is swap. This is like, just ask, right? All he had to do was ask. And I mean, you might be able to fill out one or two, but if you didn't ask, you didn't get, right?
Yeah. Well, without spending a lot of time, because the world of Cutco has changed dramatically in the last, 30 years for sure. It's 25 since I stopped being a full-time rep. But it is, you don't need 10. You need three because statistically, one will say yes to an appointment, one will say no, and one will say call me later, which means call me never, but it might as well be a no. But you only need a replacement value of one, is my point. Meaning when you've reached the number of appointments you would conduct in a week or a month, you just need three times that many names because that's your replacement value. If you're doing 8 demos a week, you need 24 names because 8 people say yes, you can do 8 next week. You want to do 20, you need 60 names. But so if you're averaging 3, it works. But yeah, that was the key. You've built the rapport. You do that at the end of the demo. You slide the piece of paper across. And I thought that was referrals, i.e. shine the spotlight on me without, again, sounding like a Cutco, advertisement, which I tend to do. I still use the word we. My wife's like, you do not work there anymore. I'm like, I know. I identify with the product so thoroughly. But it was the notion that, the product does the work, right? It's a tangible product. It should be helped, filled, seen, used, and it'll do the work. All I needed was the way to get through the door. And I was over at your friend Tiffany's house and she told me, you'd probably help me out. Was enough, was good enough, often enough that was sufficient. But that brings up a good point because it works in that context and it can work in a number of contexts, but it's still a very shallow referral, meaning it doesn't carry a ton of weight. And what I figured out after I failed at a voluntary benefits agency brokerage was you've got to get somebody that will actually endorse you. And the way this kind of came to light, of course, in the insurance world, it's not uncommon for one person to open the door. And, there's like Colonial Life actually has very specific roles. You get the appointment, you go talk to the decision maker, you show up and talk to the employees, you handle the paperwork in home office. They have very, very narrow
Like a
vertical roles. Yeah.
setter,
Yeah. Yeah.
closer
Yeah.
follow-upper, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Is amazing. So it's not unusual to bring more than one person in. So I found someone in St. Louis who was also in the insurance industry that was willing to help me out, in exchange for being, part of the process, i.e., being involved enough to get paid, which is legitimate. The insurance world, two people help do the deal. You got some reasonable commission split. And so what evolved was he was from there, and we called on a large deal. I'll just say it had 12 locations, 800 employees. I'll leave the name of the family out of it. And, we'd had the first meeting with the CFO there and me and Bert and Butch and me and the CFO, and the value proposition looked reasonably good to them. And so we went back for the decision meeting where, well, we're going to chew on it a minute, come back in a week. So we're standing on a parking lot at Butch's business and Butch points at me and says, who is this guy? And I thought, right, that kind of like in my days of Cutco, this was time to swing the spotlight to me, right? Okay, Dan, do your song and dance, right? Remind Butch of everything you told him when we were here last week. Butch says, I don't know this guy. No. He said, who is this guy? And Bert says, he's my guy. And Butch says, but I don't know this guy. And Bert says, but I know this guy.
Oh.
And Butch says, what happens if something happens to this guy? And Bert says, I'll find another guy. And we got the deal. And as we're leaving in separate cars, I'm like, I felt so disrespected. And then I'm like, but wait a minute, we got the deal. Like, does my ego need to get in the way here?
Huh.
And I realized that I didn't need the intro. I didn't need the referral. I needed the endorsement. What
Yeah.
Butch was telling Bert was, why are you looking at him? This is not about your relationship with him. It's about your relationship with me and my
Hmm.
relationship with him. And I'm like, I need more of those people in my world. And that's when I started to look at how do you systematically create those people in your world. Now, has anybody ever stood on someone else's parking lot and told them just shut up and do the deal already? No, that's the T mixed very, very, very strong. But I've had any number of things like that. I mean, as you and I were getting this call, I screen capped this right just before it started, and I sent a note to John, who will remain nameless on the last name, and said, Tiffany says you need to be my student, right? I've already said that to him. It's going to carry more weight coming from you than from me.
Yeah. Because we had just talked and I was like, by the way, do you know this guy, John so-and-so? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, he's asking these questions. He's like, those are the questions I answer for people. Like, this makes so much sense now. And I was telling Daniel, like, I don't think stuff just happens to happen. I think it happens divinely. Like, I was supposed to talk to John, then I was supposed to have this meeting with you and interview on my podcast. So that way he could have multiple angles of having his next chunk of success in his company that I so excited to help him launch towards. Like, heck yeah. That's why this level of intense networking referral, I know you've named them different and definitions of it for me. I love that. It's so important to me because I want to be the Tiffany, the intentional connector, not just Tiffany's, 10 people a day you're shooing my way and I have to
Oh my gosh.
filter through them all. I'm like, I want to
Yeah.
send you one guy a quarter you're going to go crush it with versus one a week, or 10 a day or one a week,
Or whatever the
whatever that
case may
number
be.
needs to look
Yeah.
like. They need to trust me to the point that they're cool if I'm just like, you guys got to meet and it was 3 words to send the referral over, they'll diagnose it because they trust me.
Correct. There's two elements that need to be trusted. I don't want to say 2 degrees of trust because one's not further than the other. They're trust in 2 different things. One is my trust that Tiffany can execute her job. I will send business to Tiffany. I'll refer people to Tiffany. You need her thing. Your clients need her thing. Her clients need your thing, whatever that looks like. If I trust that Tiffany does the job. The other trust that I need to have, and I want to be referable in her mind too, right? The other trust that we need to share, and it may not evolve at the exact same pace, is my trust that you know what a good introduction looks like for me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
your trust that I know what a good introduction looks like for you, such that 3 words, he's my guy, right? But I know this guy, right? I'll find another guy, which at one level sounded very offensive, right? Or, dismissive, I should say, condescending. But at the same time, wasn't the point to get the deal, right? Do I need an ego boost or do I need a deal, right? Butch may never, he'll remember that conversation. If you figure out who Butch is and you call him on the phone and ask you to tell, he won't remember my name, but he'll remember the story. But yeah, so so exactly. And in your case, Tiffany, if you said dudes meet, right? If you had a two-word intro, dudes, comma, meet, I would because I trust you. Now, I don't know if the other person would need more than that based on how well they think who they want to meet is. But we want to develop trust in 2 areas. One, are you fundamentally referable? Can I send people to you as prospects, have you treat them right, not make me look bad? They come away with value, you come away with value, and vice versa. But the
Mhm.
other is, right, how short can the intros be? One of the best I ever got was Daniel, y'all both do big things together.
That's
And I
like,
replied, I know better than to argue with STK, LOL. Here's my link. And Ruben replied, I know better than to argue with STK, LOL. I booked. Right. And it wasn't because we had faith that Suzanne does her job well. Hundreds of people feel that way about her, but we knew that she knew who we wanted to meet, and that was enough. Now, I don't think every intro should be that brief. There's plenty of people that I will introduce that I think there's value. I hope there's value. I would encourage them to explore it, see if there's value. I know that they don't trust me yet, but after about 3 or 4 of those, it will get down to, dude, me,
yeah.
right?
Now you're
You
speaking
know,
my California language over here,
right,
dude.
exactly, exactly. Just shut up already, right?
Oh my
And
God.
Yeah.
When
So
did this
anyway,
evolve into you forming what it is that you're doing right now? Because you went from thing to thing,
thing to thing. Well,
W
this is
to
Yeah, this is technically only career number 4. I don't make it sound like a monkey branch, right? I
no,
won't settle
no.
on one thing. But the work I'm doing now is an add-on, a bolt-on, and I can certainly explain the journey to the work that I started doing when I came back here. When I was in Houston, Texas, I encountered an organization called Network in Action, which believes in a small, tight model, right, of key players with each other. Monthly meetings, not weekly meetings, because if you've got your key players, you don't need to be you know, you should be meeting one-on-one. You shouldn't be meeting, as a group every week because that doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I came back to South Carolina with the model of Network in Action. I'm a franchise holder for Network in Action, love the brand, and launched a local Main Street business, right? The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and then one more behind that, and have run. English is tough, like I know another language. Have run those successfully for going on 9 years now. And 3 years ago, I launched a digital model, i.e., coast to coast, high ticket, the sort of people I introduce you to, right? Because a Main Street person in my town doesn't mean anything to you, right? But higher level B2B, the deals are more expensive. The sophistication level is a little bit higher. They're calling on different people entirely than the Main Street group. And when I did that, I realized that the onboarding and low stakes coaching, or low key, shouldn't I say low stakes, but low key coaching that I was giving to my local people as they came on board was going to need to be digitized as well. I.e., if I'm conducting meetings via Zoom, I'm going to have to conduct the onboarding via Zoom. And I'm now adding people at a higher rate. So rather than onboard people one-on-one, I sat down with Suzanne Taylor King, who I think is somebody you might know, the reference to STK a minute ago. She has 3 names, so we call her by our initials. And she I said, I need to groupify. I'm going to make up a word here. I need to groupify the onboarding experience, right? And so she helped me work out what it looks like to deliver content in a group setting. And as we were finishing the design of the onboarding, she goes, I'd sign up for that course. And I'm like, Suzanne, it's not a course, it's onboarding. She goes, let me rephrase that. I would pay for that course. I'm like, okay, how much and where do I send the invoice? And you will now
Right?
be customer number 1. And so she told me to send the invoice. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And so the onboarding still continues. I repeat this as onboarding every 4 months. It's a 3-month onboarding, 6 sessions, 2 weeks apart. And after 3 years now, and coming up on 3, and now have people that pay me money for the course, which is the onboarding. So it's called onboarding if you're part of my communities. It's called the course if you're paying from outside my community. But the principles of universal relationship building doesn't matter. You don't have to be part of my community for it to take hold. I firmly believe, and most of these networking organizations out there, I call them leads groups because they're not even really network building, is you got to be part of the tribe or nothing for you.
Yeah.
And if your relationship requires a roster, it's not a relationship.
Hmm.
Or to put it a little more affirmatively, relationships don't require rosters.
Yeah.
I have a relationship with a guy. No, you don't. If you quit, he won't send you leads anymore. That's not a relationship. He may go golfing with you, but if the thread is if you quit, he's not allowed to send you leads anymore,
Oh,
or that's a consistent transaction, but it's not a relationship.
I need a shield from the fiery darts that are coming from some people's ears and eyeballs and brains about this right now, because you are right. You are spitting facts.
Well, and what's interesting, and I have to be vague until the contract's signed, but there's a national org out there that has the right energy behind their meetings. And we're negotiating right now for me to handle the onboarding for all 1,300 members, right? To teach them this because even the founder of that organization doesn't believe that relationships need a roster. A roster is just a convenient way to put the right people in the room and make sure they're all working off the same principles, right? Which is why I continue to host communities, and I'm creating a third at this time, is because, or for the higher level, is because you don't need to be in the room. If you stop and think about it, statistically, there'll always be billions of more people out of the room than in the room, right? I don't care how big your room is. There's
Yeah.
8 billion people that aren't there. So the most value will always be outside the room. So you need to be teaching principles and employing principles that you'll be able to build a relationship, which is not dependent on a roster, because there'll always be more people not on the roster than on the roster. And
Hmm.
that's where my passion comes from. And then there's some people that want high level work that really want to change their annual revenue by 2, 3, 400,000 a year. And they want the weekly accountability. They want some handholding. They want access to my Rolodex too. And if we're going to sign an 18 to 24-month contract, I can make a pretty significant lift, usually of several $100,000 a year in their revenue, along that journey.
Right. Right. I was just getting ready to ask you because I like to ask it towards the end of the show. Like, why do you care? Why do you keep showing up so much? But you just answered it intensely, appropriately. And I know why you try so hard. I know why you show up. I know why you think of this in the middle of the night and you know ways to always elevate everything you're doing. Just like you said, you're going from 3 to 4 levels now. Like you're just going to keep reinventing this because you want to show up for all these people.
Well, and part of it is that I discovered it late. So, right, the sooner I can pass this on to other people, right? I'm like, if you get this sorted in your 20s or 30s, you're going to be 12 times richer than I will ever be, right? Is part of
Yeah.
it. And part of it is that it really is something they can take with them. Meaning the degree to which I give them the skills they need to build their own relationships, maintain those relationships, turn those into the primary source of consistent business development, right? Every now and then I meet somebody does what I do, and I'm like, just so you know, keep at it, man. I'm like, there need to be 1 million of us on this planet because we'd each have to train 8,000 people, right, to get all 8 billion on board, right? I'm like, yeah, there's not enough of us teaching this work. And what's super cool is it allows people to be authentic. It allows people to be genuine. It allows people to quickly build authentic, genuine relationships, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not when you are introduced to start with, which you and I talked about before the recording button, right? And it's there's so much value in having that small, tight group of people that believe in you versus all these people that have heard of you when you were out networking, which is really marketing by hand. I'm like, really? For all you accomplished here tonight, you should have gone in the parking lot and stuck, business cards under windshield wipers.
This is this is an episode that I hope people are like listening to hardcore because even me in my introduction, like I love going to networking groups, but like I got burnt out in them and I had to put myself in the right ones. Even the ones are $2,000 a month, 25 grand a year, $39 free. Like you have to figure out where you fit, kind of a thing. But if you just know the right people, you don't have to go to them ever again. Okay, I have 3 more questions, so we can do that real quick before we end.
And let me pause and say, people say that I just need to meet the right people. I'm like, stop it. You already know the right people because everybody that's not the right people knows somebody that is the right people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Therefore, you already know the right people. You
Yep.
can get there. You already have enough trusted relationships in your world, more than you can build in a lifetime of going to cheesy networking events.
Mm-hmm.
And you can build faster with somebody that was endorsed to you, introduced to you, than you can with somebody that just met you
Yeah. Yeah.
because the trust is already assumed. Anyway, go ahead.
I love that. So I want to ask you, at this point, they're thinking, how do I find you? I want to know you. I want to be on the in. Where do you want people to go to find you?
Sure. Sadly, the name Daniel Andrews is quite common. So there's only about, on Facebook, I was Daniel Andrews or facebook.com/Daniel Andrews.5185. So I was number 5,185 of the Daniel Andrews, right? And even LinkedIn's got about 1,000 of us. So I went ahead and bought. Oh, by the way, my full name is also that of a bombastic Australian parliamentarian. So you can't even Google me. But if you go to my web domain, which is my full name, Daniel Andrews with an S, DanielPatrickAndrews.com, there you go.
That's where you're
So,
going to find you.
and if you poke around, I think a click or two, you'll find my 15-minute link, which is not a bad place to start. We can build from there, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn and explain why you want to get into a longer conversation. I'm happy to do that. But the fastest way to find me, DanielPatrickAndrews.com or 803-361-6825. I haven't changed my phone number in 30 years. Not changing it again.
And if you're like, Tiff, there's 900 Daniel Andrews, friend me. I will find you. I know there's a billion Tiffany Alexandras as well, but I put enough videos out there that they're like, oh, this is the one you want to know. So it all works out.
On my LinkedIn profile, I'm in a suit, by the way. Look for me in a blue suit.
Nice. And then what do you have on the horizon you want to tell everybody about for a second?
On an ongoing basis, I put some free workshops into the world. I don't treat them like a funnel, guys. I don't have a hook. I don't have a lead magnet. I don't have a send me your email address in exchange for PDF. OMG. I do put free workshops into the world. Connect with me. I can get that out there. They're findable on Eventbrite. But you can get the whole collection easier if you connect with me. And they're different every month. I do 1 or 2 events every month. They're different every month. And so the series is pretty cool. But I'm working with a few more of those people, like I said, that really want the heavy lift, right? I wanted to call it the Copilot model, but then Microsoft stole Copilot for their AI, right? So I think Sherpa is the word I'm looking for. We're both climbed to the top of the mountain, right? I get paid handsomely for carrying the luggage, but you get all the credit. Cool. Well, so that's my Sherpa model, right? If you want to go from here to the top of the mountain and you want somebody behind you the whole way going, turn left, turn right, ice axe, crampons, oxygen, right? That'd be me. And those would be people that are looking to change the needle by several hundred thousand a year, right? If you're making 100 and you want to make 150, my short form course is fine. If you're making 100 and want to make 300, want to make 400, we should talk about the big stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, last nugget. Tell me what you want to leave everybody with. Your little blessing of advice or nugget or story that we can end with.
It's easier than you think to turn the network that you have into the network that you need. That's a fun nugget. One is my dad gave me in my late 40s, after I had done quite well in business. I ended up declaring bankruptcy, got in a bad business deal. A couple years later, whining, bemoaning to him the fact that I consider that a failure. And my dad stopped me and said, "There are no failures. Some lessons are more expensive than others." And that's a good thing to hear from a dad, particularly dad that wasn't that same dad when you were growing up, where nothing was ever good enough. So that was a nice blessing from dad near the end. Yeah, I mean, there's so many places I could go with so much wisdom. Oh, here's another good one. This will take a few seconds, but if you dice it up, it'll make a fun little blurb. And shout out to Ray Arona. If you're still listening, he's retired in Arizona. He's probably not, he's on social media, but he's probably not still working on his personal development. So shout out to Ray Arona, my district manager at Cutco Cutlery. He taught me this: when I speak to you, there are 6 places to get lost. There's what I think, there's what I say, there's what I thought I said, there's what you heard, there's what you thought you heard, there's what you thought I meant by what you thought you heard me say. And on that, and I say that the context for that is I pick my words carefully. Did you notice a couple of times I redirected you? There's a difference between a referral and an introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a difference between networking and building a network.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Incredible.
there's some subtleties in there.
I cannot wait to have this as a little short at the end. Oh my gosh, Daniel, you've been amazing. I'm so happy you got to come and we finally got to record this show today. Thank you, everybody that stayed till the very end. I cannot wait to hang out with you for more episodes, and go click on all the links. If you don't know Daniel already, which you do, amazing. But if you don't, go friend him. It's going to be amazing. And you guys go have a great rest of your day. Chat soon. Thank you, Daniel.